Rain had not stopped for 3 days when Alira Vance left Blackthorn territory for the last time. She did not look back at the great stone hall where she had once danced in secret with the man she loved, nor at the dark pines where they had shared whispered promises neither of them could keep. She simply walked, one hand pressed against her stomach, until the borders of the only home she had ever known disappeared behind the mist. She was carrying the Alpha King's child, and she knew that truth alone was enough to get her killed. Corrick Blackthorn had never wanted the marriage that bound him to Isolde, daughter of a rival pack leader. It had been arranged before he was old enough to understand what he was losing, but duty was duty, and an alpha's duty was heavier than his own heart. When he finally worked up the courage to choose love over duty, it was already too late. Alira was gone, and the pack was told she had died attempting to cross hostile territory during a supply run. Corrick mourned her in silence, never suspecting that somewhere far away, she carried a piece of him that would one day return. Alira settled in a quiet settlement 2 territories away, a place with no pack politics, no thrones, and no memory of the Blackthorn name. She raised her daughter alone, naming her Wren, after the small bird that had once landed on Corrick's shoulder the night they first admitted their feelings for each other. It was the only piece of him she allowed herself to keep close. Wren grew up different from the other children. She was faster than she should have been, stronger than she should have been, and there was a quiet command in her voice that made even grown wolves pause when she spoke. Alira watched her daughter's wolf grow with a mixture of pride and terror, because every year, it became a little harder to hide what Wren truly was. "Why won't you tell me about my father?" Wren asked one evening, when she was 12 years old and had just won a wrestling match against a boy twice her size. "Because it isn't safe," Alira said, the same answer she always gave. "Someday, when you're older, I'll explain everything. I promise." Wren accepted the answer, the way children accept the boundaries their parents set, even when those boundaries make no sense. But as the years passed, the questions did not fade. They grew sharper, the way an ache grows sharper the longer it is ignored. By the time Wren turned 16, her wolf had become nearly impossible to contain. She would wake in the middle of the night with her claws extended, her heart pounding from dreams of a stone hall she had never seen, and a man's voice she had never heard, yet somehow recognized. Alira noticed the changes and grew quietly desperate, teaching her daughter breathing exercises, grounding rituals, anything to keep her wolf calm. But some things cannot be taught away. Some things are simply born into the blood. It happened on an ordinary afternoon, at the edge of the settlement's territory, where Wren often went to run alone. 3 scouts from Blackthorn Pack had wandered farther than usual while tracking a group of rogue wolves through the forest. They caught Wren's scent before they saw her, and when they finally did see her, they stopped in their tracks. She moved like an alpha. She smelled, faintly, unmistakably, like one too. The scouts did not approach her. They simply watched from a distance, exchanged uneasy glances, and returned home with a story that would soon reach ears far more important than their own. Word spread quickly through Blackthorn Pack. "A girl near the eastern border," they said, "with the bearing of royalty, and a wolf too powerful for an ordinary bloodline." Most dismissed it as exaggeration, the kind of tale that grows taller with every retelling. But Alpha Queen Isolde did not dismiss it. She had heard whispers, years ago, of a servant girl who vanished from the pack under strange circumstances, a girl who had once looked at her husband with feelings that did not belong to a servant and a king. Isolde had buried those whispers a long time ago. Now they were clawing their way back to the surface. She said nothing to Corrick. Instead, she quietly sent for a group of rogue wolves she had once used to settle other inconvenient matters, and she gave them a single order: find the girl and make sure she never reaches Blackthorn territory alive. Alira felt it before she understood it, a cold unease settling over her like a shadow crossing the sun. She noticed strangers passing through the settlement who did not belong, wolves who watched a little too closely and asked a little too many questions about a teenage girl who trained near the eastern woods. Her instincts, sharpened by years of hiding, screamed that the truth had finally begun to surface. She sat Wren down that night and told her everything. She told her about Corrick, about the love they had shared, about the marriage that had torn them apart, and about the night she fled to protect the child growing inside her. She told her that her father was not just any wolf, but the alpha king of Blackthorn Pack, and that the blood in her veins marked her as an heir whether she wanted the title or not. Wren sat in silence for a long time after her mother finished speaking. 16 years of unanswered questions rearranged themselves in her mind, forming a picture she had never dared imagine. The dreams of the stone hall, the voice she recognized without knowing why, the strength that never quite fit into the quiet life her mother had built for them. "I want to see him," Wren finally said. "I want to know if it's true." Alira wanted to refuse. Every protective instinct in her told her to keep running, to disappear again, to bury the truth even deeper than before. But she saw something in her daughter's eyes that she recognized, because it was the same fire Korik used to carry. Wren was not asking for permission. She was telling her mother what she intended to do. "Then we go together," Alira said, "but we go carefully." They left before sunrise, traveling through back trails Alira remembered from years before, avoiding the main roads where the rogue wolves were most likely searching. Wren's wolf grew restless with every mile, sensing that they were drawing closer to something enormous, something that had been waiting for her long before she knew it existed. They arrived at the edge of Blackthorn territory on the evening of a great pack gathering, a celebration meant to formally present Alpha Queen Isolde's 2 young children as future heirs to the throne. The entire pack had assembled in the central courtyard, wolves of every rank standing shoulder to shoulder beneath torches that lit up the darkening sky. Thurick stood at the front, dressed in ceremonial black, his expression unreadable as he watched his wife present their children to the crowd. Alira and Wren slipped along the tree line, staying hidden as they searched for a way to approach without drawing attention. But the rogue wolves hired by Isolde had been watching the borders all along, and it did not take long for them to catch Wren's scent among the crowd. They struck without warning, 3 wolves emerging from the shadows and lunging toward Wren, before she even understood what was happening. Alira screamed, throwing herself between her daughter and the attackers, but the rogue wolves were fast, and there were more of them than either woman expected. For a moment, chaos consumed the edge of the gathering. Pack members nearby noticed the commotion and turned, confusion rippling through the crowd as they tried to understand what was happening at the border of their own celebration. And then something shifted in Wren. Years of suppressed strength, of a wolf too powerful to be hidden any longer, finally broke free. She moved faster than the rogue wolves could track, her instincts guiding her with a precision that felt older than her 16 years. She did not fight like a frightened teenager. She fought like someone born to command, and within moments, the attackers who had come to silence her were subdued, pinned beneath a strength that left no room for doubt about what she was. The crowd fell into stunned silence. Every wolf in Blackthorn Pack could sense it now, the unmistakable weight of alpha blood radiating from a girl none of them had ever seen before. Whispers spread like wildfire through the gathering, pack members turning to one another in disbelief, trying to make sense of what they had just witnessed. Korik pushed through the crowd, his heart pounding with something he could not yet name. When he finally reached the front and saw the girl standing amid the subdued attackers, breathing hard but unharmed, the world seemed to tilt beneath him. And then he saw Alira. She stood just behind her daughter, older now, her eyes filled with the same fear and love he remembered from all those years ago. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The noise of the gathering faded into the background, as 2 people who had once loved each other in secret stood face to face after a lifetime apart. "Korik," Alira said softly, her voice trembling. "This is your daughter." The words landed like thunder across the courtyard. Isolde, who had been standing near her own children just moments before, went pale, as the truth she had tried so desperately to bury finally clawed its way into the light. Korik looked at Wren, really looked at her, and saw himself reflected back in her eyes, in the set of her jaw, in the quiet strength she carried even now, uncertain and afraid in front of an entire pack. There was no need for further proof. He knew, the way any parent knows, deep in his bones. "Who did this?" he asked, his voice low and dangerous, gesturing to the subdued rogue wolves at Wren's feet. "Who sent them?" The rogue wolves, bound by pack law and facing certain punishment for their crimes, did not hesitate to name the one who had hired them. Isolde's name spread through the crowd like poison, and the pack that had gathered to celebrate her children's future now turned to stare at her with dawning horror. Isolde tried to protest, tried to claim the accusation was a lie constructed to steal her children's birthright, but her voice cracked under the weight of every eye now fixed upon her. The rogue wolf's testimony was clear, and pack law was clear as well. An attack on any pup, hidden or acknowledged, was among the highest crimes a wolf could commit, a sacred code meant to protect the future of the pack itself. There was no version of the truth that could save her now. Korik turned back to Ren, his heart aching with 16 years of loss he never knew he carried. "I never knew," he said quietly. "If I had known, I would have found you. I would have found you both." "I know," Elira said, tears finally slipping free. "That's why I never told you. I was afraid of what they would do to her if they knew." Ren stood between her parents, the weight of the entire pack's attention pressing down on her, and for the first time in her life, she did not feel the urge to hide. She had spent 16 years suppressing her strength, silencing her questions, and pretending to be smaller than she truly was. Standing here now, in the heart of Blackthorn territory, she finally understood that she did not need to hide anymore. "I'm not here to take anything from anyone," she said, her voice carrying across the silent courtyard. "I only wanted to know the truth. But I won't run from it either." Korik placed a hand on her shoulder, his eyes shining with emotion he made no attempt to hide. "You don't have to run," he said. "You never should have had to." Before the entire pack, he made his declaration. Ren was his daughter, his firstborn, born before either of Isolde's children, and by every law of their people, the rightful heir to the Blackthorn throne. There would be no more secrets, no more hiding, no more lies buried beneath fear. Isolde was stripped of her title that very night, banished from the territory she had once ruled, her plot against an innocent child laid bare for the entire pack to witness. Her own children, confused and frightened, were left in the care of trusted pack elders while the consequences of their mother's choices unfolded around them. Elira, the woman who had once vanished into the rain to protect her unborn daughter, was welcomed back not as a forgotten servant, but as the mother of the pack's true heir. Korik did not waste another moment hiding his feelings. In front of everyone who had once believed her dead, he took her hand and made it clear that whatever politics had once kept them apart no longer had any power over his heart. Ren, the girl once taught to suppress her nature and swallow every question about her father, now stood as the future of Blackthorn Pack, no longer a secret, no longer hidden, no longer afraid. The rain that had once forced her mother into exile gave way, that very night, to a clear and star-filled sky, as if even the heavens understood that the years of hiding were finally, truly, over.